So now we have the assembled action, and remember I mentioned this pin is very loose, and it's important that it's sitting in the middle when we go to put this back together. So the other thing that we took care not to lose was that little spring that goes in the hole here. So first thing we're going to do is I put a bit of grease on it so it retains it. So I can now turn that upside down, it's not just going to fall out. The next thing is the recoil guide rod sits in here, which is the space inside the frame, which is here. So that block section is going to fit into that area here between the front of the trigger and the back of the slide stop retainer. The other thing, if that has actually come off, that's simply how it does come off and goes back on. I want to just line it up with the holes because we're going to put that pin through shortly. That little spring, you can probably see a little indentation on the top here, a little mark where that spring pushes this down. So what we're going to do is, this is the way I do it, other people do it different ways, but we're just going to simply, with the hammer forward, offer this up into that space. So that part is going to go in there like that. We want to make sure this is in the middle, and then all we're going to do is push that down. So now that is down. Before we go any further, I've got to get the recoil guide rod back in. So I lift the front of this up like this, and it slides through the gap in there and sits. Be careful not to get it that way up, because once it's in, you can't turn it round. So you need to put it in that orientation, slide it in, and then that is in there. And then what we're going to do is find the hole, line it up and push that pin back through here. So I'm going to do that. It's better, you can do it quite easily if you have a piece of white paper, it'll help you see it. Once it's in place, get your pin, soft mallet, tap it in, and then give this a tug to make sure that you have actually captured it. So that's back in place. Next thing is we need to put our safeties back in. Cock the hammer, lift, and you remember that my one came out from the left side, so I just push it back in through the hole on that side, give it a bit of a waggle and it goes through. And again, with this up, palm on the side of here, push this one so it fits all the way in, and you'll find it goes in quite easily. If you've got this down, it won't clip back in, so you just have to hold it up, then you push that down, and now the final pin is the one that goes to the back here. So again, I use a soft mallet initially, holding the two parts together, get it started, and then with your drift, just finish it off. I like to check that it's about the same distance through both sides, which that is. Now you can check everything's working. Don't allow the hammer to slap into the receiver, this part of the receiver. You could snap the hammer and crack it. So always hold your hand on it and you can check that it works. Stop it with your thumb. And then finally, springs in. One other question people always ask me is what oil? These guns like to be run wet. So I actually use 10W40 engine oil. No need for a super light oil. You know, these are not concealed carry guns that we use here, so a bit of engine oil and a good bit. So run it wet, and I always put a little bit of oil on this surface here that rides over the hammer and cocks the hammer. And then we can simply put it back again. So I'll put this rod on here, it makes life a lot easier. Slip this in underneath the sight. A little bit of a puzzle to do it, but there we go. All the way back, and then pressing down on the rails, it'll click into position. Check the functionality of your safety. The hammer doesn't drop. Keeping the trigger pulled back, pull the slide. Make sure that it all works.